Hello and welcome to the Buffy and the Art of Story podcast. If you love the Buffyverse and you love creating stories or just taking them apart to see how they work, you're in the right place. Today I'm talking about Angel Season 1, Episode 18, 5x5, where Faith comes to Los Angeles and Wolfram Hart hires her to assassinate Angel. I am Lisa M. Lilly, author of the Awakening Supernatural thriller series, the QC Davis Mysteries, and the Writing as a Second Career books for writers. You can find all of those and back episodes of Buffy and the Art of Story, including those that cover Buffy the Vampire Slayer, at lisalilly.com. That's LISALILLY.com. Along with a recap of 5x5 today, I'll talk about changes and growth in Wesley's character, a deepening of the understanding of what happened when Angelus got a soul, complex themes about redemption, change, order, and evil, a closer look at the attorneys at Wolfram and Hart, and my episode rating on a scale of 0 to 10. There are no spoilers for Angel, but I will talk about the whole of Buffy the Vampire Slayer from time to time, so if you have not seen that entire series, proceed with caution. Okay, let's dive into the Hellmouth, or maybe just Los Angeles. 5x5 has a long previously on section if you watch it on streaming. It includes Cordelia's ghost, Phantom Dennis, Lindsay, an attorney at Wolfram and Hart, giving Angel his business card, Angel throwing Lindsay's client Russell out a window. Some scenes from Buffy where Faith and Buffy meet Wesley, and Buffy telling Faith that being a slayer is not the same as being a killer. Later scenes from that same episode where Buffy says to Faith, "You killed a man," and Faith says, "I don't care." From another episode of Buffy soon after that, Wesley coming into Angel's home where Angel has Faith in handcuffs. He's trying to reach her and help her, but Wesley and others from the council incapacitate Angel and take Faith away. And then the last scene from Faith's 2-episode arc on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Faith riding in the back of a truck, and a voiceover with Buffy saying she doesn't think Faith is coming back, and we hear Riley say, "I guess she's had her fun." As promised, I did not rewatch those 2 episodes or re-listen to my breakdown of them from the podcast, though I went ahead and put them in the feed. So if you've been listening in order, you will have just heard those. I just recorded Eternity last week. So as much as possible, I'm coming to this as an Angel watcher who doesn't cross over to Buffy. 5x5 starts with an opening conflict that is not at all about Faith directly, but does thematically resonate with the entire episode. A young man, we find out later, is a gang member named Marquez, walks alone at night. He comes upon what he thinks is a group of guys. He can't see their faces. They've got hoods on. They're around a metal barrel with a fire glowing in it, and he starts to threaten them. But they turn to him. They're demons. One of them drops a severed arm holding a gun into that fire. They chase after Marquez. Lucky for him, Wesley and Angel drive up behind the demons. Wesley's at the wheel, and Angel decapitates the demons. Wesley pulls over in front of the young man. Angel confirms that he is, in fact, Marquez, and he says it's good because he hates to save the wrong guy. This is part of the story spark or inciting incident for this episode. That is the moment that sets off the main plot, because Angel has to convince Marquez to testify against a client of Wolfram and Hart. And that is what sets off the firm's, or specifically Lindsay's, frustration with Angel. The second part of the story spark, though, happens at a bus station at night. Faith gets off the bus. She's wearing jeans and a t-shirt. Her shoulders are hunched a little. She looks not at all like a confident, in-command slayer. She looks a little bit afraid, but as we'll find out, this is something of a ruse, though I also think it shows that Faith does feel vulnerable. Not physically, but emotionally. She walks past this guy in a black leather jacket. He's smoking. He falls in step with her and says she has that new in town look. He tells her it's a dangerous area for someone like her. Maybe he can help, especially if she has no money and no place to stay. Faith turns to him, playing up, seeming vulnerable. She puts her hands over her arms and says, "I'm cold." He tells her he's very warm and starts to take off his jacket. As he does, Faith punches him, then she kicks him, and she is pretty over the top with him. She easily incapacitates him, but keeps beating on him. Then she takes the cash from his wallet and his keys and says, "Now I got money and a place to stay." She grabs his leather jacket as well. And we go to credits. Part of what works so well about this scene, whether you know Faith from Buffy or she is a new character, is that despite that she has beaten up this guy, we're kind of cheering for her because he was clearly trying to prey on her. He lurks around the bus station. He's looking for young people coming into town who have nowhere to go. So we're not sorry to see what happens to him, though it is a bit of overkill. On return from the credits, we see a flashback to Romania, 1898. In a mansion at night, Darla gives Angelus a present. They are both dressed very well, very fancy. He's blindfolded, and when she takes off the blindfold, he sees a young woman tied up and gagged in front of the fireplace. He says that she is a gypsy. This is the term the show uses. And Darla says, yes, she looked everywhere. An interesting dynamic. So Darla is the one who chose the girl that the clan so valued, setting off the chain of events that led to them cursing Angel, though there is an implication there that she knew this was what Angel wanted, or Angelus. Angelus asks, "What would I do without you?" And Darla responds, "Wither and die." He bites the girl in the upper thigh as Darla watches. The scene cuts to Angel arguing in his inner office with Marquez. He wants Marquez to testify and reminds him that all his friends were dismembered, so he doesn't have anyone else. I'm not sure that's the best argument because probably Marquez is worried about that happening to him if he testifies. In the outer office, Cordelia is pessimistic. She says Marquez will never do it. It's a waste of a vision. Wesley thinks Angel can persuade him if anyone can, and they did save Marquez's life. Cordelia asks when's the last time Wesley sent a thank you note. Plus, she thinks that guys like him don't change. In fact, she thinks guys just don't change. And she goes on, scratch the surface, and what do you get? More surface. I love this line. It's so very Cordelia, and it's fascinating because in the early seasons of Buffy, we might have been tempted to say that about Cordelia, at least in season 1. She is ignoring that she has changed, but Wesley doesn't mention that. He points out that you could have said that about Angel. Cordelia quite rightly counters that Angel was cursed with a soul. What are they going to do? Drag in the Romanis who cast the spell and have them shove a soul down Marquez's throat? Wesley argues that Marquez is human. He already has a soul and therefore deep down an urge to do what's right. Marquez storms out. There's no way he's doing this. He's out of there. Angel pulls him back into the office and Cordelia says, sure, Wesley's right. He's just like the Dalai Lama. At a nightclub, Faith, in tight black leather clothes, dances. She gets between a couple. The girlfriend protests. The guy seems to really be into it until Faith elbows his girlfriend in the face. He then punches Faith. She hits back, knocks him into the crowd. This sets off more fighting. Faith dances in the middle of it all, occasionally taking part, throwing a punch or a kick. Sometimes the scene is in slow motion. Sometimes there are quick cuts showing, though we are watching Faith, how she must be perceiving it almost as unreal or disjointed. It is, too, a bit of a callback to Bad Girls when Faith and Buffy danced together in the club. In a courtroom, Lindsay is telling the judge that the prosecutor has no witnesses. The prosecutor argues that he would have witnesses if Wolfram and Hart would stop tampering with them. Lindsay demands the judge dismiss the case. The courtroom doors fly open. Angel comes in with Marquez, who is ready to testify. The prosecutor calls him to the stand. Angel and Lindsay exchange a look. This is the first time that Angel and Lindsay have met since the very first episode when Angel tracked down Russell, the vampire who tried to kill Cordelia, and Lindsay was one of his lawyers. And as we saw in the previously on, right in front of Lindsay, Angel shoved Russell out the door and Russell burned up on the way down because he shoved him into the sunlight. Oh, and I think I said out the door. It was out the window, so the window shattered. Lindsay paces in his office. He's talking on the phone, saying he accepts full responsibility. He thought he had done everything he had to, that yes, Angel is a costly liability, and he agrees that he can do that. Whatever that is, presumably take care of Angel for good. The other lawyer who had been sitting at the counsel table, we'll find out his name is Lee, comes in and tells Lindsay he has an idea. Later in the hallway, Lila, the Wolfram and Hart attorney we saw in The Ring a couple episodes ago, calls out Lee's name. She takes a moment to tell the other lawyer she's walking with to be sure that they understand this is a drop-dead offer, and she means that literally. She is very confident, serious, competent. Now she turns to Lee, and her tone becomes friendly, maybe a little too friendly because we sense she's making fun of him a bit. She says she heard he had a good idea about how to deal with their friendly neighborhood vampire. The two spar a bit, and it seems like Lila is congratulating him on finding out that a rogue vampire slayer is in town, but it turns out that Lila knows more than Lee does because she knows how to find Faith. She will make contact, and when Lee asks why, she says it's his people skills. He doesn't have any. Lee says, "You bitch," and Lila says, "See?" But she tells him if he behaves, she'll let him ride in the limo. I love that quick exchange. It's another example of liking a character, Lila, who is doing bad things. We know this simply because she is at Wolfram and Hart and the literal drop-dead offer. But Lee is so smarmy, and his response tells us so much. He may think he has people skills, but clearly he does not. He immediately proves Lila's point. This discussion could be seen as the first major plot turn in the episode. This is what sends Wolfram and Hart and Faith on a collision course. And though it has not been said outright between these three lawyers, Lee, Lindsay, and Lila, it's pretty clear that they've decided to convince this rogue slayer to kill Angel. And who better to turn to deal with a vampire? Cordelia is on the phone telling someone they don't really handle divorce cases until she finds out how much money is at stake. She hangs up as Wesley and Angel come in. They tell her they won. Marquez testified and told the truth. Cordelia says, "What did I tell you?" And Wesley responds that he never would. A fun bit of minor conflict between them that foreshadows A lot of the episode themes, or continues the foreshadowing of the episode theme about whether people can change. Cordelia tells them they might have a new client who can pay. She hedges when they ask what it's about, but says they're meeting for lunch the next day. Wesley comments that Marquez is lucky he ran into Angel, and Angel says Marquez just needed a little guidance. Wesley wonders how Wolfram and Hart will push back. A great segue, because we're going to see that in the next scene. Lila and Faith walk out of a bar together. Faith says she guesses they could go somewhere and talk, but she's more of a doer. There is some chemistry between them, but Lila stops and says she thinks Faith might have misunderstood her intentions. Faith thinks Lila misunderstood and says she likes that watch and says, "Aren't those diamonds on it?" Lila calls her Faith, and Faith is immediately on the alert. She never told Lila her name. Lila starts telling her that we can help you, that she's had some trouble, but they can help bring order to her life. Faith is not thrilled, especially because she knows nothing about we and nothing about Lila. Lila, turning on that femme fatale energy from The Ring, says her favorite color is green. She looks good in diamonds and she loves riding in limos. Right then, a limousine pulls up. The door opens. Lee is sitting inside. A great follow-up on Lila's promise that if he's good, he can ride in the limo. Lee says to Faith, "Can we talk?" And Faith gets in. This is one of many things I love in this episode. Each scene is connected to the previous one thematically or by a line that in some ways introduces what is going to happen next or the characters. And we get these follow-ups. We go to a commercial. That scene too could be seen as the one-quarter turn because now it appears Faith will work with them. She is at least open to it, even though she doesn't know what's going on yet. On return from the commercial, Darla in the mansion calls out for Angelus when she gets home, but he's crouching near the wall and muttering to himself. He's saying something like, "Not everyone screams when you kill them. Some just stand there frozen. But children always scream." Darla at first thinks he's playing a game, and when he mentions children, she brightens up and asks if he brought her some. They sound like little pigs when they scream. But he keeps rambling about how they drank and killed for 140 plus years, and you wouldn't think he could remember every single person. At first, Darla thinks he met someone else, but as he goes on and tells her it was the girl and that they found him and cast a spell, she realizes he has a soul, a filthy soul, and she calls him disgusting. She scratches his face. She tells him to get away. And he says, Darla brought the girl there. And he says, "I'm like you." But Darla tells him he's not like anything. And this is a start of drawing a parallel between Angel and Faith. Angel, or Angelus, he probably still thinks of himself as Angelus, does not have a place anymore. Darla is casting him out, and he doesn't know what he is. She tells him he is unlike anything, and that is true and is probably much how Faith feels. She is a slayer, but she is completely unlike Buffy. She probably sees herself as being cast out, though more so than for Angelus. That is a result of her choices. But that gets into the question of how much is Faith's choice, how much is circumstance. It is a great parallel between the two characters. From that scene, we cut to Lindsay, Lee, and Lila, our three L-named lawyers, talking to Faith. Lindsay says there's a felony arrest warrant for murder for her in Sunnydale. If she's willing to render some services for them, they can get her off. And Faith jokes, "You don't know how many men have promised her that." Lila's sure Faith won't be disappointed in their performance. Faith asks who she's supposed to kill, and she's all in the second Lindsay says Angel. The three are surprised she doesn't want to know more, so apparently their research about Faith being a rogue slayer did not go as deep as to find out that Faith and Angel know each other or their history. Both Lila and Lindsay talk to Faith with respect for her skills, for her being a slayer. They want to make a trade. Lee, though, is pretty condescending, and he uses a lot more, not exactly legalese. He's not using a bunch of Latin terms, but he is making use of his vocabulary, probably knowing Faith won't follow all of it, and he says it might behoove her to know more about her intended before they discuss remuneration. And Faith says, huh? And Lee says, payment. Then he stands and moves close to her face to face and tells her he wants it to be clear the firm is not connected to anything that she will do. His ass is on the line, and he doesn't want her to make him look bad. Faith slams him face first into the table and asks how he looks now. She keeps slamming him over and over. Lila smiles and says Faith has initiative, and Lindsay calls someone on the phone to say it'll only be 3 for dinner, not 4. Cordelia, Wesley, and Angel get out of the elevator in a nice hotel on their way to meet the client for lunch. Cordelia finally admits it's a divorce case, and she's trying to persuade Wesley and Angel that they should take it. In the background, Faith wearing a jeans jacket, so she doesn't quite look like her Slayer self. She doesn't have that black leather jacket on, but she does have a crossbow. She is behind Angel where you would not think he could possibly see her, but when she fires the arrow, he spins around and catches it out of the air. Faith says that was so cool, this'll be fun, and runs off. Wesley and Cordelia stare after her, shocked. Wesley says he thought she was in a coma, and Cordelia comments, pretty lively coma. In the next scene, Angel hangs up the phone and tells the others that Giles said Faith left Sunnydale about a week ago. She was borderline psychotic. Wesley's upset that Giles didn't contact him. He was Faith's watcher. Giles should have let him know right away when Faith came out of the coma. A great way to get that backstory in, Angel says Giles was worried about Buffy. He tells Cordelia and Wesley to check police reports for beatings or killings near the bus station or bars, and then he wants them to hide out. He doesn't want to give Faith any targets. Wesley, though, is not going to run and hide when a psychotic is coming after Angel. There is strength in numbers. Cordelia points out that 2 is a number, and she is good with becoming scarce. Angel is so intense that Wesley worries Angel is taking it personally and asks if Faith did something to Buffy. But Giles just said it was rough. Wesley warns Angel against acting on emotion. Either he or Faith will end up dead. Angel says that's what the lady wants, but Wesley tells him that's not good enough. Faith is not a demon. She is a sick, sick girl. And he goes on, if there's even a chance she could be reasoned with. Angel responds, there was. Last year, I had a shot at saving her when some British guy kidnapped her and made damn sure she'd never trust another living soul. Cordelia says, Angel, it's not Wesley's fault that some British guy ruined your... Oh, wait. She looks at Wesley. That was you. She looks at Angel. Go on. Wesley says Angel doesn't need to. His head down. Angel tells them just get to work. So this is around the midpoint of the episode. We could see the midpoint reversal for Angel as Faith accepting the job to kill him, or when she fires the arrow at him, which is when he becomes aware of it. And there's even more of a reversal when he learns, though he doesn't know specifics, that Faith was in Sunnydale and harmed Buffy. Thank you to all the patrons who support the podcast, and a special thank you to those who have sent in ideas about bonus episodes they'd like to hear. A few recent ones I've recorded are a look at the script for Buffy the Vampire Slayer New Sunnydale, the cost to Buffy of being a steadfast hero, and Bad Dads in the Buffyverse Part 1, a close look at Hank Summers. All of those are available along with a lot of other bonus episodes, mainly about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. If you want to join the Patreon community and get access, you can go to patreon.com/Lisa M. Lilly. That's patreon.com/LISA, M as in Marie, LILLY. Everyone who joins the paid membership at any level gets a free ebook of Buffy and the Art of Story, Writing Better Fiction by Watching Buffy, and you get every regular episode a few days early. In addition, it's possible by now I will have started running some ads at the beginning and or end of each episode, and if you're a patron, you can listen ad-free. Angel, certainly having a darker approach probably than Buffy, has largely been trying to be a hero and not to kill humans. You get the sense he is somewhat willing to do it, maybe doesn't have a bright line against it, but it is not like him to be so casual about the idea of killing Faith. So that too, a reversal for Angel. In the next scene, though, Angel will make a commitment, so that can make for a really strong midpoint when you have both a reversal and a commitment, and especially when one flows out of the other, and especially when the commitment is second, because that really drives the story from that point on. Angel is alone in his apartment. He hears noises upstairs and he finds Faith there. She is smart. She is in tons of sunlight. She also has a gun that Angel guesses might have wooden bullets, but she tells him no. She tosses it to him. That might have been a good idea. But since she knows she's going to kill him slow, she wanted to give him a chance. He doesn't let her finish. He shoots her, but he aims for her leg. It does nothing, and he realizes it is filled with blanks and tosses the gun back to her. She chides him for not shooting to kill. So this is what I mean by Angel's commitment. He has apparently thought about what Wesley said, and he isn't going to just try to kill Faith. He wants to stop her, but not kill her. After chiding him for not shooting to kill, she tells him she is getting paid to kill him. They hate him even more than she does. He asks if it ever occurred to her that this might be more fun for him. Faith is into that. She says, go ahead. He might get that one moment of true pleasure. And it's interesting that Faith says pleasure rather than happiness, which is what the curse is supposed to be about. She says she would love that. Let's take that hell ride together. She's giving him an open invitation. Angel does not want things to go that way, obviously, and she mocks him for thinking things through and for having his tortured soul. And she tells him to think fast, lover, and shoots him. It hits him near the chest, and this does hurt. And Faith says, gosh, that one wasn't a blank. And then says, let the games begin. She leaps out the window, breaking through the glass, despite that there is a door right behind her. So definitely a flair for the dramatic. And there's some foreshadowing here about the ending of this episode, because Faith tossed him that gun. It apparently had one blank, but then real bullets. If Angel had just fired twice, he could have killed her, and there was a good chance he might do that. So Faith is taking a lot of risk here. In the next scene, Angel is in a suit carrying a briefcase going through the halls of Wolfram and Hart. Some random lawyer calls out "you," and Angel thinks he's caught, but the lawyer thinks he was in the Gruber meeting with Angel. Asks, was that a negotiation or a cotillion? Angel jumps right in, says that's what he was trying to tell Frank. And when the lawyer asks who's Frank, he says Frank. He works in contracts with Louise. The lawyer tells him it's not about contracts, and Angel immediately pivots and says that's what he was trying to tell Frank. They agree that they have to close this deal. The lawyer says before the stock goes, and Angel says through the ceiling, and the lawyer says in the toilet. Angel immediately says right. The lawyer, not really listening to what Angel is saying, says keep him in the loop and takes off. Angel heads for Lindsay's office. It's very large, a great view, really nice furniture. And I have to say, as someone who was an associate at a large law firm, typically this is not what your office looks like. Mine was very small and had very standard issue wooden and metal furniture in it. It did have a great view because it was in what was at the time the tallest building in the world, so it had a lovely view, but the office was nothing like Lindsay's. Angel goes through Lindsay's papers, sitting at his desk. Lindsay walks in and asks if Angel has no respect for the law. I sort of enjoy Lindsay in this scene. He is going through all the things a lawyer would say, but there is a definite self-awareness there that he is using the trappings of the law, but is not really on the right side of it. So Lindsay doesn't really pretend that he is righteous in a way that I suspect Lee probably would. Angel wants to know about Faith. Lindsay denies knowing anything about her or where she is or who she is. Angel asks, how does this work for Lindsay? He gets the great office, the view, the company car, a bonus, can hire a killer at any time. Lindsay tells him that's slander. And he recalls Angel throwing one of his clients through a window. Angel says yes, and it was a window about that size. He points to Lindsay's window, a veiled threat, and says too bad the client burned up on the way down. He might have needed a good lawyer. Lindsay tells him Wolfram Hart only accepts a certain type of clientele, and Angel responds, I'm sure I killed enough people to qualify. Lindsay tells him they have security that flags when a vampire comes in, and at that moment a security guard enters. Angel doesn't kill him, but easily disables him. Lindsay's not fazed. He says there'll be more soon, plus police, and they're recording this entire interaction. And though it would be entertaining to watch Angel trying to fight them all off, he has a dinner to go to. Angel tells him it was good to see him again, which is something that lawyer in the hall said to Angel. But he stands very close and says, we'll do this real soon. Another threat. And Lindsay, as Angel heads for the door, says just when he thinks he has him figured out, he shows up in a suit and kind of smiles and shakes his head. Maybe a little grudging respect from Lindsay that Angel got into his office. Cordelia and Wesley are walking toward Cordelia's apartment door, talking about the different assaults they found that Wesley is sure Faith committed. From inside, Dennis pushes the door shut, won't let them in, and Cordelia thinks that he is jealous. So apparently she didn't learn anything from the episode Expecting when Dennis tried to keep that demon date of hers from coming in, although we don't know how many other dates who were just human and posed no threat Dennis did not want in the apartment. They finally get in. Cordelia reassures Dennis that hell will freeze over before she has sex with Wesley, and Wesley says, thank goodness for small favors. He tells Cordelia to be quick. Cordelia's going to go and pack a bag so they can hide out, but Faith steps out. She doesn't think Angel is in the game. What could she do to really make him hate her? She advances on Cordelia. Wesley steps up and tells her it's not too late. Faith jokes for cappuccino. Wesley and Cordelia both say they want to help Faith. Wesley says, I realize there have been failures on both sides, But I also believe in my heart that you are not a bad person. Faith elbows Cordelia hard in the face, knocking her down, and says, what do you believe in your heart now? Wesley slugs her. She's a little bit impressed. Certainly the Wesley she knew back in season 3 probably wouldn't have tried that, or if he had, he would have missed her. She slugs him right back, and the scene cuts. Now we're in a flashback 1898 Borsa, which the Buffy fandom wiki says is the home of the people who cursed Angelus. Angelus, head down, approaches 3 well-dressed people. He says he's hungry. One of the men scoffs at him, but the woman says to be kind. He's a beggar, so the man throws a coin in the mud. Angel picks it up and then attacks. He says he's a monster. He and the men fight in an alley. We don't see it, but we hear it. The woman watches, hoping that the man named Rudolph will emerge. She calls his name, but it's Angelus, and he attacks and bites her. In the present day, Angel enters Cordelia's apartment. This scene is the last major plot turn. It grows out of the midpoint, reversal, and commitment because Angel finds out that Faith has injured Cordelia and taken Wesley. He helps Cordelia up. She was on the floor and she's tearful, and she tells him that Faith was there and she was like an animal. So I had thought she was knocked out, but it seems like she must have been at least somewhat aware when Faith was beating up Wesley. Cordelia feels guilty about it because she made Wesley come with her to get a couple things from her apartment. She tells Angel that Faith said he wasn't in the game and asks if Wesley's okay. Angel says Wesley is not there. So apparently Cordelia wasn't aware of that. In the last episode of Angel, I commented on a few moments when characters tell each other things that the audience has already seen. That was in Eternity, and how it did slow the pace a bit, although there wasn't too much of it. Here, we do have Cordelia tell him what Faith said about him not being in the game, but it's just that one line immediately followed with the question about Wesley. So we realize that Wesley is gone. Up until that moment, we might have thought he was on the floor or in another room. Cordelia definitely thought that. So this is a huge turn. Angel is in the game now for sure, and Wesley's life is at risk. The scene cuts to Wesley. He is gagged. He is very beat up looking, and he is tied to a chair in an apartment in a kind of rundown area of the city. Faith sits on his lap, and her voice is a bit shaky. With intense emotion, she slaps his face. She tells him not to give up yet. This will be over too fast. He'll be dead, and she'll be bored. And she says they've only done one of the 5 types of torture, blunt, but they're still sharp, cold, hot, loud. Does he have a preference? Wesley nods, and she is thrilled. She likes audience participation. She takes the gag off, and Wesley tells her he really knows her. He was her watcher, and after she kills him, he wants her to remember one thing. Faith's voice and face soften a bit when she asks him what, and he says, "You are a piece of She cuts him off, shoves the gag back in his mouth, and says he's one to talk. She'll have to try harder. And she breaks the glass in a picture frame and picks up a shard. She'll have to switch to sharp for a while. Cordelia points out the attack she and Wesley found on a map. Angel hones in on the first one at a bus station where the victim's wallet and keys were stolen. Cordelia says the guy is still in the hospital. She and Wesley were about to go talk to him. Angel asks where he lives. The scene cuts to Faith. She is sitting in an open window. She looks sad, and she tosses a shard of bloody glass out. It shatters on the asphalt outside, many floors below. Inside, Wesley looks far worse. He is still gagged and tied to that chair. Faith finds a lighter and a can of cooking spray, and she starts musing philosophically, asking what if they had never met, or what if he was Buffy's watcher and she had Giles? Would Wesley be here no matter what? Or would Giles be in that chair now? And she laughs. She advances toward him, shows him how she can make a burst of flame using that cooking spray, and asks what he thinks about fate and destiny. She doesn't believe in it. And she goes on, not that all of this is his fault, but if he'd been a better watcher, she might have been a more positive role model. She continues with those flames, bringing them closer and closer to him. She is really angry. She yanks the gag off and says she wants to hear him scream. And Wesley says, "You never will." A small callback to Angelus in one of the flashbacks saying how some people don't scream. Faith tells Wesley to admit it. Didn't he always kind of have the hots for her? And she puts a burst of flames right in his face. But Angel breaks in through the door. So I guess we're supposed to guess that the guy in the hospital died because Angel's able to come in. And Faith says, "About time, soul boy." She has a knife to Wesley's throat and asks if Angel is ready to play. He says he's ready. In another flashback, Angelus staggers out of the alley saying, "I can't, oh God, I can't." The woman staggers out after him. She is bitten, but she is still alive. Faith still isn't sure Angel is really in this. If she killed Wesley, would it help or just be really funny? Wesley eyes Angel as Angel circles Faith. Angel says he knows what Faith is after, and it's not about Wesley. Faith insists it is. Wesley is payback, and Angel asks a really good question. He says, for what? He thought she was happy with the way she is. An excellent way to point out how miserable Faith is and how much pain she is in. And he asks how much Wolfram Hart is paying her and scoffs when she says $15,000. She says she's young. She's willing to work her way up. And he asks, does she really feel young? She looks pretty worn out. I love that line about being willing to work her way up. It tells us that maybe Faith was seeing this as a possible new identity for her, a paid assassin working for Wolfram Hart. And I find that really interesting. The way she is so affected by torturing Wesley raises a question of whether she could really do the paid assassin work. On the other hand, we did see her do that in season 3 of Buffy. Now, if you had never seen Buffy, you wouldn't know that about her. And this line would tell you it's something she's contemplating, though we don't know for sure at this point if she could do it. We're now at the climax of the episode where our opposing forces have their final confrontation. Wesley shoves himself backwards so that the chair tips back away from the knife at his neck. At the same time, Angel lunges. He and Faith fight. And she taunts him as she punches him, saying, "Come on, I thought you were bad." It is a very violent fight. Definitely a Slayer versus a vampire. At one point, Faith says, "You can't take me. No one can take me." And it does look like she is winning. Wesley is watching closely. He looks really concerned because she throws Angel across the apartment. She slams him up into the ceiling. But then Angel briefly gets the upper hand, and the two of them go flying out the window, fall down several stories into the alley, and keep fighting there. Upstairs, Wesley, he is frantically getting some of that glass and using it to saw away at his hands, which are tied behind his back. So this is not easy. In the alley, as they fight, Faith is screaming that Angel doesn't know what evil is. She's yelling at him to fight back because now he is mainly ducking and defending himself, much as he did in the episode The Ring. Finally, she throws him across the alley. Angel says he knows what she wants and he's not going to do it. Inside, Wesley finally gets free. He watches out the window. It looks like Faith might get the better of Angel since he is not fighting that hard. Wesley doesn't have the context. He hasn't seen what we did, and he may think Angel is genuinely weakened. He grabs a large carving knife. In the alley, Faith keeps punching, but she starts doing more flailing. Sometimes she's swinging at the air, and then she is just slapping his chest as they get closer and closer. And Angel says, "Nice try, Faith. I know what you want. I'm not going to make it easy for you." Faith says, "I'm evil. I'm bad. I'm evil. Do you hear me? I'm bad. Please, Angel, please just do it." Wesley gets to the alley right then, and he is ready to dive into the fight, but he freezes as he sees them, how close they are standing, that they are not really fighting anymore. And Faith goes on, "Angel, please just do it. Just do it. Just kill me. Just kill me." Instead, Angel holds her. They crouch together to the ground, and he comforts her, telling her he's right there. And all this time, the rain is pouring down on them. We're now at the falling action, which is very short. The conflict has resolved with essentially Angel prevailing, not by killing Faith, not by winning the fight, but by getting her to say what she is trying to get him to do, to say that she wants him to kill her, and getting her to stop fighting. Wesley drops the knife, and that is the end of the episode, and he looks devastated. This is a very well-structured episode, not just those strong plot turns that build on one another, but those moments that I mentioned of foreshadowing, Faith having live rounds in that gun she tosses to Angel. She is even then willing to let him kill her and probably wanting it, though we don't find that out until the end. The callbacks to the different lines, the transitions between scenes, all of this is very tightly structured. Nothing is a throwaway line. No scene or moment feels wasted. Even that part about the divorce, Cordelia trying to get Angel and Wesley to be willing to take the divorce case, even though there is nothing supernatural about it, relates to the questions the episode raises between human evil and demonic evil. We leave the scene where Lila, Lindsay, and Lee were going to go to dinner with Faith, and we see Cordelia, Wesley, and Angel stepping out to go to their lunch with a client. It's a very small similarity, but it's those types of moments that make an episode really flow, a story really hold together. I find it fascinating too that while we do have two strong stories here, we have Angel's story and we have Faith's story, I don't have the struggle I had in Eternity about who is the protagonist. It is Angel in the main plot, because we start with Angel trying to redeem someone. Yes, he is also trying to defeat Wolfram Hart to ensure that their client is convicted, but he is trying to save Marquez, who Cordelia thinks is beyond saving. He's doing this as much for Marquez as he is for that conviction and to thwart Wolfram and Hart. And that sets up the entire arc of the episode, the theme of the episode, all the questions about redemption and a soul. Right in that very first scene, Wesley and Cordelia talk about what having a soul means. Wesley says Marquez has a desire to do right, even if it's really buried. So much resonance with what happens with Faith. And this shifts to Angel trying to save Faith, though at first he's not interested in that. Then we have Faith's story from when she comes into town. We don't know exactly what she's looking for, but in the beginning, she clearly wants something, which is a place to stay and some money, and probably just to put Sunnydale behind her. I don't know that she has a thought about what she'll do. Then she encounters Wolfram and Hart. Now she wants to kill Angel. She has active goals throughout, as does Angel. We do see a lot from her point of view, but she has a very strong subplot, which brings her directly into conflict with Angel. And we find out she has the other goal of having Angel, she might say, or maybe she's hiding it from herself, but essentially put her out of her misery. And he is probably the only one who could do that because she is so strong and so skilled. The other reason this is such a powerful episode, well, there are the themes, which I'll get to, but from a plot perspective, this is a locked conflict. Angel and Faith cannot both prevail. Faith's ultimate goal is to get Angel to kill her, and Angel's is to redeem her. They cannot both win. Part of redeeming her for Angel is to save her, is for her to live and be redeemed. So in both the plot and subplot, those are the same goals, and only one of them can win. That is a very, very strong conflict. Moving on to the theme, there are so many complicated themes here that are examined in different ways. There is a minor theme about people skills. Lee proves over and over that he has none, not only with Lila, but with Faith. He is not at all good at reading her. He very foolishly provokes her. He does not know what will set her off. He thinks he's going to take charge of this situation. Lila, in contrast, her approach to Faith got Faith to walk out of the club with her. She might have miscalculated slightly in the way she started talking about how we are going to bring order to your life. And Faith said something like, "We are we?" So that didn't go as well, but Lila quickly recovered. She probably had been flirting with Faith in the club because Faith seems to think they're going to hook up, or that that's what Lila wants. And she doesn't flirt again, but she does turn on some of that chemistry. And it's clear she knows that Faith could be a danger to her. Unlike Lee, she's not pretending Faith doesn't pose a danger, but she is offering Faith something. You can find back episodes of Buffy and the Art of Story, as well as the Buffy and the Art of Story books and all my fiction at lisalilly.com. Lindsay has more people skills than Lee does. He speaks to Faith with respect. He and Angel have an interesting exchange. Angel, too, has people skills in this episode. When he meets with that other lawyer in the hall, he's able to pivot quickly. And he and Lindsay do pretty well dealing with one another. They don't come to blows. They do vaguely threaten one another, but they have a certain amount of respect for one another. And disgust as well, but they have this conversation. And Faith, of course, her way of dealing with people in this episode is almost entirely violence or the threat of violence. She threatens Lila. She beats up Lee. She beats up the guy at the bus station. This is how she communicates throughout the episode. And with Angel, this is her approach: violence to get him to kill her. And only at the end, when she is saying, as she is still throwing some punches, "I'm bad, I'm evil, just kill me," that is when she stops fighting. And it is one of the only times she has a conversation. Not even a conversation, she has lines that are not involving threats. There is a very minor theme or question of the role of boredom in evil when she says, "It'll be over too fast and then I'll be bored." Now, is that the main motivation? No, I'm sure not. But it is interesting, especially considering that Vampire Willow in Buffy, one of her things is bored now. And later, Dark Willow echoes that in season 6. So there is a theme in the Buffyverse about what is the connection between boredom and doing evil. And some amount of it is probably the need to escape the stillness of one's own thoughts. Faith does not want to be alone in her own head. And torturing Wesley is a way to put off dealing with any of the feelings she has. There also are themes of order versus chaos. Faith's life is extremely chaotic. The only way she's relating to people is violence. Even the guy at the bus station, she wants his wallet and his keys. She could easily take those and incapacitate him without beating him so badly that he later dies. But she doesn't. She is out of control. She is out of proportion. In the nightclub, the same thing. She doesn't need to start that fight. No one is threatening her. Even the girlfriend-boyfriend, she's dancing with a boyfriend. Eventually, the girlfriend probably would have just walked away, but Faith just elbows her in the face, starts this fight, and is dancing in the midst of this chaos. And I do not think it's any accident that one of the things Lila says to her is, we can bring some order to your life. Probably what Lila means is what Lindsay says later. They can help get rid of that warrant for her arrest. But there is chaos. There is internal chaos for Faith. And there is this interesting juxtaposition between Faith's chaotic type of evil action and Wolfram and Hart's organized, orderly evil. It's a whole law firm devoted to this pursuit. And it raises a question. Is that more evil? Is Faith truly evil? She is doing evil things, but it seems to be coming out of this pain and inner turmoil where Lindsay, Lee, and Lila seem to be more motivated by the desire for success, by whatever they can achieve. Now, we don't know their backstories, so we don't know what else might be motivating them, but this is what we see so far. And of course, the themes of redemption and rehabilitation, what is possible and what is not. Wesley says that someone with a soul deep down is capable of good or has the desire to do good no matter how much it's buried. He initially cautions Angel about treating Faith like a monster. He says she's not a demon, she's a sick, sick girl. Yet we see that Wesley may have changed his mind. He tells Faith he believes deep down there is good in her until she tortures him, and then he tells her she's a piece of, and he doesn't get to finish his sentence, but it seems he truly believes that in that moment. That's what he wants her to remember. Is that understandable? For sure. I mean, she is at that moment about to kill him. He doesn't know that Angel's about to come through the door, and she has been torturing him for a long time. So it's completely understandable that Wesley feels that way. But that is a great theme too. How deep does that belief run that someone can be rehabilitated? It's clearly different when they are torturing you versus knowing that they have done terrible things. And we see Angel's story after he has his soul. This too is, I'm pretty sure, new information for probably either Angel or Buffy at this point, that it wasn't, oh, he just got his soul and now he was good. He tried to continue killing. It was Darla who cast him out. He didn't leave voluntarily, though he was grappling with the horror of what he has done and the guilt. But he went on, he attacked those men, he attacked that woman, he tried to. So despite the soul, Angel was still trying to do evil. And he says to them, I'm a monster. He was feeling like a monster, as Faith feels like a monster. This story seems to be saying that if you have a soul, you can be rehabilitated, you are capable of redemption. But we do have Lila, Lindsay, and Lee, all human, all presumably have souls, because in this universe, in the Buffyverse, humans all have souls. Other than maybe that little boy in the episode with the exorcism, maybe he did not. We don't know. But it seems that that would be an aberration. The demon who inhabited him tells us he's never seen that before. So we're going to assume Lila, Lindsay, and Lee have souls. Can they be redeemed? So all these themes there, and probably ones I haven't even gotten to. What I especially love is while Faith does some musing about destiny, it is in the midst of torturing Wesley. It does not slow down the episode. And in fact, we wonder if any of this talking out loud will lead her to back off, to do worse. How is it affecting her? But the actual themes about a soul are dealt with through the story, through conflict between Wesley and Cordelia. Can Marquez be convinced to testify? Through the actions that Angelus takes, that Darla takes, that Faith takes. All these themes are explored through action and conflict. Moving on to character arcs. Faith arcs here, we don't know exactly how much. We don't know if from the beginning her goal was for someone to kill her. Is that part of starting the fights at the club? I kind of don't think so, but maybe. Is it from the time Wolfram and Hart hires her? Maybe, maybe not. When she immediately says yes when she hears Angel's name, it could be because unconsciously she has already put two and two together. Angel is the one who can kill her. Or it could be another way to get back at Buffy. It could be her anger at him for trying to save her back in Buffy. We don't know, and she probably does not know. Most likely she is not aware, even when she throws that gun to Angel, of her desire to have him kill her, but it becomes clear to her to the point where she is saying it. She goes through this journey, and then, at least for that moment, we don't know what'll happen next, she accepts Angel's help. She stops fighting. And the comment about willing to work her way up adds a layer to this. Faith has another alternative. She could keep working for Wolfram and Hart. And if not Wolfram and Hart, I'm sure there are others who would hire her as a paid assassin. This adds something because it isn't just Faith has to go on as she is, just randomly causing chaos. We know she can survive. She can always rob people and get money, but this means there is a career path of sorts for her, not a conventional one, not a moral one, but there is one. So Faith has a choice, but still she chooses to try to get Angel to kill her, and then she chooses to stop fighting and maybe let him help her, maybe move toward redemption. Angel, too, goes on an arc. When he first learns about Faith and intuits how much she harmed Buffy, he is ready to kill her. Wesley has to caution him, but he does set that aside. He does put aside his anger, maybe a need for vengeance, or at least a desire to protect Buffy by killing Faith, and he puts all of that aside and really dedicates himself to his mission of helping people, including Faith. And we learn more about his arc as in Angelus and how he sees himself, why he empathizes so much with Faith. It isn't just that, oh, he killed people and then he got a soul and he felt the guilt over it. It's that he tried to keep doing it, even when he had a soul. And we see some growth for Angel as a detective, as a private investigator, not so much in detecting, but in those people skills. He is getting better at playing different roles, and it's always fun when you see Angel play a role. I like seeing this. I like his non-vampire skills expanding. Wesley, what a journey for him. One, we see him so much tougher. He throws that punch at Faith. He connects. It's a good punch. Now, he is still not a match for a Slayer, but he would have gotten nowhere in the past. And we see him tell her, "You won't hear me scream." Presumably, he hasn't screamed yet in the torture, although he was gagged, but it seems he wasn't trying to scream. This is so different. In season 3 of Buffy, they make fun of him for running screaming. He is ready to give up all the information he has when Balthazar threatens him in, I think it's the end of Bad Girls or the beginning of the next episode. Balthazar wants to know who has his amulet. And Wesley is so frightened, and he says to Giles, but I like my kneecaps. This is a very different Wesley here, and a lot of it is driven by his dedication to Angel, how strongly he feels about supporting Angel. But here, when he is being tortured by Faith, he can't stop Faith. Nothing he can do can keep her from going after Angel at that point. But nonetheless, he will not let her hear him scream. And when she is out the window, he's tied to that chair. He manages to get untied, and he grabs that knife. He is going to go down there knowing probably he will get killed, but he is going to go down and try to help Angel. So Wesley has grown tremendously. And then there is the question of where is he on redemption? He makes the opposite shift from Angel. In the beginning, he's saying she's not a demon. She is a sick girl. He cautions Angel against taking it personally. But once he is tortured, he is, it seems, probably ready to kill Faith. Unlike with Angel, if it's Wesley and Faith, and she is still bent on torturing him and killing him, if he doesn't kill her, he's going to die. So there is a self-defense element there that is not quite as present with Angel, because there is the potential, even if Faith did not stop fighting, that Angel could immobilize Faith, could knock her out. The odds of Wesley doing that are almost zero. It really would be a kill or be killed situation. Even if it was not, though, we get the feeling that by the end, at least before he sees Angel and Faith together, he does not think Faith can be redeemed. And when he drops that knife, my sense is he feels betrayed by Angel. He is shocked to see Angel holding and comforting Faith. We get some more fun with the side characters, a little bit more about Lindsay, more about Lila. I love seeing how competent she is, and it makes me want to see more of her because she also has a sense of humor. She is a bit playful when she is talking to Faith, and she is in no way easily intimidated. Moving on to world building, I do have a question. Faith at one point calls Angel lover. And in Buffy season 3, there was that brief time when Angel was pretending to have been turned into Angelus. We see Faith and Angel kissing. Buffy is very concerned later about how far things went, yet we are given the impression that he and Faith never had sex or never made love. I can't remember when Angel says that, but I'm pretty sure at some point he did. So this raises a question. Are we changing that? Are we suggesting that they did? Or it may just be Faith is alluding to that time together, not necessarily being literal about it. There is some further exploration of what a soul means. Wesley says that Marquez has a soul and therefore deep down the urge to do what's right. So we see Wesley struggling with that when it comes to Faith. There is a question of whether he still believes that. I do think, despite his questions, that is what the episode is saying, that if you have a soul somewhere deep down, you have an urge to do what's right, or at least you are able to make the choice to do what's right, unlike, for instance, Angel when he was turned into a vampire. That choice aspect is key and tells us that just having a soul or not having a soul isn't the only thing that matters. Knowing that Angel still tried to go out and kill people and be a vampire when he had a soul provides a contrast to Spike, who, when he gets a soul in Buffy, well, he's kind of crazy in the basement. But it seems pretty clear that until the first takes him over, he doesn't try to kill people. But Spike was very different as a human than Liam was, and this may make part of the difference. So it isn't just having a soul or not, it is what you choose to do. Though you could argue that Angel or Angelus was in so much pain, much as Faith is now, that it drove some of those choices. And Spike was in a very different place when he got his soul, and he sought it out versus having it thrust upon him. We expanded Wolfram Hart a bit, learning more about Lila and Lindsay and meeting this new character, Lee, suggesting that Wolfram Hart is going to be a bigger and bigger part of the series, at least for a while. Finally, my rating of the episode on a scale of 0 to 10. This really hits everything that works for me. I love a strongly plotted episode that is so tightly written like this one. I love exploring those types of themes. Faith is one of my favorite characters. Her arc is so interesting. I'm fascinated by what Wesley is going through. I want to see where that goes. There is so much conflict set up for future episodes, depending what Angel does and Faith does and how Wesley reacts. And I'm really enjoying these side characters. So because of all of that, I give this episode on a scale of 0 to 10, a 10. That is it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening, and a special thank you to patrons who support the podcast. Come back in 2 weeks for Angel Season 1, Episode 19, Sanctuary, where Buffy comes to Los Angeles either seeking vengeance or trying to protect Angel. And the Watchers Council offers to take Wesley back if he'll help them capture Faith. Music for this episode was written and performed by Robert Newcastle. Buffy and the Art of Story is a production of Spiny Woman, LLC. Copyright 2026. All rights reserved.